Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Unplugged Woodworkings podcast. So what have I been up to? I have the last few days just started to make some shelving units. This is just oak. This is going to be for a lady. I've surmising it's going in our sitting room. It is quite a small one. I haven't posted any pictures of it yet. I also kind of finished off that table that I'd done, the table that I messed up with the with the angles of the bridle joints, and I had to correct those. I've kind of nearly finished up on that. I had to take a couple of days away from it just because it was annoying as basically, and I find when things get like that with us, it's just best for me just to take a few days away from it, concentrate on something else, and then go back to it with a fresh mind, if you will. It's like I said, the joinery's cut for it. It's all glued up. Basically, is all I've got to do now is just make some fixings. I'm just going to use some fixings, and it's basically these fixings are going to be recessed into the top of the framework, and it's just to keep the tabletop fixed into position basically. So yeah, I need to get a bit of a wriggle on with that because I want to kind of get it sent off. That's kind of got to go down to London, so obviously I'm going to get Courier to take it down for us, because I'm due to go back to work in the next few days, unfortunately for me. I had quite a lot of interests in me scraper videos. I've done a scraper video, just a regular scraper on Instagram, and it had a stupid amount of views. For me it did anyway, because I'm only a small channel on Instagram, and I think it had like somewhere, the last time I looked at it was like, I think it was like 240,000 views on this scraper. So there was some questions, and I followed that up with a demonstration of the number 80 record scraper that I had, and I had not a lot of questions, but I had a few questions, a few messages basically saying they'd like to see how I sharpen it and how I set that up. So hopefully within the next couple of days I should be issuing a video of that, just a quick video of how I sharpen and how I set it up. Again, it's a really simple setup. There's no fancy jigs or anything like that, so I'm probably going to be doing a video within the next couple of days of that. So what impressed me, I've mentioned this guy before. If you haven't checked him out or you haven't followed him, I suggest you do so, especially if you're a fan of Japanese joints. This is Dylan. I hope I'm saying this right. I'm going to butcher the name like I did the last time. Dylan Iwakuni, I think that is. So Dylan does a lot of Japanese joints. I'm not too sure what his job title is. I don't know if he's kind of a traditional carpenter. I think he is, and he kind of, it looks like he specialises in like traditional joints and whatnot. So he posted a video, and again I'm going to leave a link to this video. It is on Instagram, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name of the joint. It's, as I said, I'm not even going to try, but if you want to check it out, I'll leave a link in the description, and it's actually quite a clever joint. I've never seen this joint before, but I'm kind of guessing the joint is for like a vertical post in some sort of a house. I think on the post it was, you originally seen the joint at it's some castle. I'm surmising in Japan. So it was like on a gate, like a gate post, I believe. So I think this joint is like for, like the vertical position. And basically, if you can imagine kind of a sliding dovetail joints on the end grain, but the sliding dovetail actually goes in on the diagonal, on the vertical diagonal, and it also has two 45 degree, or at least it looks 245 degree sections at either side that actually turn into a point. So you've got like an apex in the centre of the post, both sides, and then in the centre of that you've actually got the two sliding dovetail joints. So as I said, it is actually quite clever. So in order for it to go in, it's got to be dropped in diagonally, on a slight diagonal. So if it's in the vertical position, there's no way that can come out unless it's actually pulled, or if it's twisted or bent at the joint, which I don't think it would be, because if that was used in any sort of construction, I would be surmising there'd be all the framework in place to stop it doing that. But as I said, it is quite clever. So with the two apexes, if you will, at either side, the two triangle pieces that like basically slot in, it kind of fixes it that way. So if you look at it like that, you would think if there was a great amount of pressure that was forced upon it, the two triangle pieces of the male section of the joint would actually put too much pressure on the female section of the joint and actually just split the post in half. But whereas on the inside, it's actually got some square end grain, and those are the sliding dovetail joints. So it's actually got some tapered end grain that meets each other, but to counteract that, it's got square pieces of end grain. So obviously, if it's square end grain, it's really, really tough, and obviously it's just fighting against itself. So it basically stops itself from splitting itself, if that makes sense. So it is quite a clever joint. I wouldn't actually mind to get myself a book on Japanese joints, because I know a lot of these joints were used in temples, and I think it was the same in China as well, where there would be at war with different parts of the country, whatever. Some of the temples would be damaged, and rather than obviously take the whole thing apart, they would basically, from the very little history I know, they would basically cut the joints and be able to take the old sections out, cut the new parent joints, and slide the joinery back in. I know some of the joinery was designed for that, but I wouldn't mind to get a book that would just explain why the joinery is how it is and what it was used for. I think that would be quite interesting. So if anybody knows of such books, I would appreciate it if they popped us an email or maybe a comment. It would be most appreciated. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about tool adjustment, or rather ongoing tool adjustment, little tweaks that you need to do as you use tools. Also some little tweaks you can do and you should do when you first get some tools. The list isn't really extensive. What I've got, it's kind of just in a few things that's kind of that needed attention over just over this past week, and some of the comments I've had and whatever else, a couple of messages I've had. So I'm just going to kind of touch on those that's kind of fresh in my mind from this week. And as I said, this list isn't extensive, there's more things, but as I said, I'm just going to go over the few that are fresh in my mind. So first on the list is saws. So this week I had me Western style saws out. I only had them out one day, and this was solely because me Japanese Ryoba, or Ryobi, however you want to pronounce it, Ryoba I think it is, that's like basically dying to death now. Especially today, I was using it today, and it's I really need a new blade. It's seen a lot of action. I kind of complain. as I said in the video I posted on Instagram when I was showing it, on its last legs, it actually, ironically, when I was cutting with it, it still looked like it was cutting really well. Yeah, that wasn't the case today though, but I do need another blade. So, as I was saying, I got my Western saws out because I knew my Western saws were in pretty decent condition, meaning that they were decently, the last time I used them, I can remember them being half decent, like sharp wise. So I was using them, and my Dorchester ripsaw, that's got it's got a nice black American walnuts handle. That was kind of binding, and I thought it was a bit strange, and I thought to myself, it might just be me because I haven't used it for that long. Obviously, I've just been using my Japanese saw for however long. It's been a long time since I've picked a Western saw up, and I thought it must just be me, So I didn't check the blade, the blade or the teeth or anything. I just I got me oil in a rag, in a can, sorry, and just lubricated the saw blade up, and going again. It just seemed to be binding, and I was cutting and cutting and cutting. I was ripping and ripping and ripping, and I said, this isn't right. I should have checked before the amount of cutting I'd done. And I checked, and this is what I'm talking about, like kind of ongoing tool adjustment or tool maintenance, if you will. The blade was, it had quite a bend in it. Like I don't really know how I've managed to get quite a bend in it, to be honest with you. And there was also like a bit of a kink in it as well. So I don't know if this is just being, the teeth have hit a knot. It's been a bit of a hard knot, and it's basically kinked the saw. Obviously I've been putting pressure on it, so I kind of don't know if that's happened, which I'm leaning towards. It mightn't have been as bad as what it was, but obviously just kind of you keep on using it in that way, putting pressure. Same could have happened again. It's binding, and the bend just gets worse and worse. So I checked the blade, had quite a bad bend in it. So people might be, or people might have seen on the internet or on YouTube, someone grabbing a hammer. You don't always have to grab a hammer. I think maybe 80%, 90% of the time you don't have to use a hammer, depending on how bad the bend is or the kink is. So basically, is how I do it. I'll have the bend pointing up towards myself. I'll put it on the Roman workbench. I'll put my palm where I think the centre of the bend is, and I'll just bend the whole blade up towards myself. And you just keep on going backwards and forwards there. It doesn't take a lot of effort to actually bend the saw back into place. Sometimes it can be a little bit awkward if you've got like a bend and then you've got a kink in the bend as well. That can be a little bit awkward, but that's something that you do need to kind of address, and you should keep an eye on. I don't know why it took us so long just to check the teeth. I should have known a little bit better. But like I say, I think it's just because I'm so used to using Japanese saws. You don't really I don't tend to get a lot of like bending in it, because obviously you're pulling the Japanese saw towards yourself. There was also where the kink had been. I did actually take a little bit of the kink out, but I did notice that some of the teeth are now needing to be set. I didn't take the time to set the teeth. As it was, what I'd done, like obviously I took the bend out and took, pretty much cleaned the kink up. I done actually quite a good job, to be honest with you, and it was cutting like 10 times better. You know, obviously it wasn't binding. It actually felt like I'd sharpened it, as silly as that sounds, you know, but obviously because you don't have to put as much effort into it when it's not binding. So yeah, like I say, that's something you should be looking out for. So another thing, a little bit of resistance. This happened to us a while ago, and this was actually on a Japanese saw. I can't quite remember the brand of the Japanese saw, but the quality wasn't great on it, and I've mentioned this a few times. I haven't actually named the companies because I don't want to be, you know, I'm not like that in general. I don't want to be putting companies down, but as what I have done, I've recommended what's the company that I go to, and I'm not associated with them. I think it's Gyoko, if I'm pronouncing that right. These are available from Workshop Heaven in the UK, and they do actually post worldwide. So, you know, if you're in line for a Japanese saw, I would recommend that make of saw. But regardless to that, back to the saw itself. So I was using this saw. It's same again. It's like I don't know how this managed to happen, but anyway, I'm using this saw and it seems to be binding at first a little bit. You know, I didn't think too much of it. It wasn't a great deal of binding, and then all of a sudden, you know, there just seemed to be a lot of resistance. And on the underside, when I'd actually cut through, I seen like a load of like damage to the underside, and I was like, how's that happened? What's happened there? Never thought anything of it, and I thought, I can just plane that out. I cut the second piece, and the same happened again. And I was really annoyed with it because the damage was greater, and it was what it was. And I don't know how I didn't click onto this, but it was actually one of the teeth was like really set. It was like set out. I don't know. I can't remember that, like the measurement, but it was like it wasn't a lot in the big picture, but it was enough to create the damage. I think it might have been overset about like 1 millimeter, something like that. It doesn't sound a lot, but it does make it does make a difference, and it did cause the damage. You know, so I just got my hammer with that, you know, tapped it back into place, and it was totally fine. Having said that, you know, the blade itself, it was just like of a poor quality. I wasn't really impressed, and I won't be going back to that manufacturer again, unfortunately. So while I've been talking about teeth sets, I'm going to very quickly touch on it. Not overly, but just a little bit. I'm not really going to go too much into the sharpening, because sharpening seems to be, you know, covered quite a lot. Where I don't say too much like kind of information on teeth set, or at least I didn't when I was looking for it. Like, that obviously was quite some time ago. This was a good number of years ago. But even now, I don't hear a lot of people talking about teeth sets. I hear about them sharpening and the different techniques and whatever else, but like I said, I don't hear them talking about teeth set. You should be keeping an eye on your teeth set as well. Sometimes you can overset your teeth. I've done it myself in the past, and I've seen other people do it. The problem with this being, if you overset them, you make your curve bigger. This can kind of give you a really ragged saw cut, and even though your saw is sharp, it can give you like when you're cutting, it can like feel like the saw isn't sharp, if that makes sense. At the same time, you can, if you've just got a nice set, over time your set will, like, you know, begin to become non-existent, if you will. And again, this can create like a little bit of binding. So you do want a little bit of set on your teeth, but obviously not too much. And another thing as well, depending on, if you're getting any kinks in your saw or whatever, some of your sets can actually go the opposite way to the way it's supposed to be. So when you're doing your set, you'll have one tooth going to the left, you'll have one tooth going to the right, and then that'll just be a repeat all the way down. But sometimes you might have one to the left, the second one left, 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 and then the right. For whatever reason that happens, but same again, you want to keep an eye on things like that. As I said, I'm not going to go into the depths of that, but it is something for you to keep your eyes open for. So, rounding over of cutting edges. This goes for a few cutting edges. So planes are kind of one of the big ones. What I will kind of say you should do it on. So for anyone that doesn't know, if you're not rounding the edges of your plane blades, this is your two sharp edges either side of your cutting edge. So you should be rounding them over. If you don't round them over and you're using a plane, is what happens is that you'll get steps in the wood. Now, don't get us wrong, even when you've rounded these over, you will still get steps, noticeable steps when you're planing in the wood. Is all the round over does, it just makes the steps less noticeable. It kind of minimises them, that's just kind of what you want to do. So if you don't round over, your edges, for your smoothing planes and whatever else, I would suggest you do them. These are just for the regular Bailey pattern, your number 4s, your number 5s. That was kind of the first cutting edge that I kind of, what I kind of discovered that you should do. Well, I didn't discover it, obviously I learned this, so, but that was kind of the first thing. But this kind of goes on and on. So another cutting edge would be a scraper. So you wouldn't actually think to actually curve the two edges, or the four edges rather, of a regular hand scraper. You just wouldn't think it. But what I was finding is when I was using it, I was actually scratching the wood. And I was basically dragging lines up, and I was I was kind of scraping it, and I was after I'd finished scraping it, I was looking back, and I was thinking, how is that like that? I've just used the scraper to basically smooth it. I was like, how the hell is that? Obviously, it took a little bit of time, but the old brain finally fired up and said, yeah, it's because that's a square edge, you've been sharpening it. So when you file it, if you use a file, or if you're putting it on the whatever stones you've got, or your diamond plates, them corners are going to become really, really sharp. It makes sense when you think about it. So the logical thing to do would be to round them over, which I do now. Obviously, you don't have to do this all the time with card scrapers. You just take the file over it. You take your, you could put it over the stones if you wanted to. And these are good for quite some time, It's going to take you a while to take that air round off, but same again. This is just an ongoing thing. Just keeping an eye on it. And like I said, I've done mine once. However long ago I've done it, and I haven't had to do it since. And I do use my scraper on just about every project I use. So this again is true with a number 80. So for anyone that doesn't know a number 80 is kind of it's a cabinet scraper, and this has got like a body. You could kind of say it looked a bit like it's kind of like a cross between a spoke shave, kind of going onto a plane sort of feel to it. But same with that as well. I was using that, and I was like, kind of, what's going on with that? So obviously, same again, you've just got to kind of round the four edges of that over, and it does make a difference. So if anyone's in, kind of going to buy one or has got one and doesn't get on with it, that might be one of the reasons why. So as I said, I am going to be doing a video on that, on the number 80 cabinet scraper, to show how I sharpen it and how I set it up. So keep your eyes open for that. So another one worth a mention, and I did actually discuss this not so long ago. I don't know which podcast it was in, but it wasn't too long ago. And that's to round over the edges of a draw knife. This is solely kind of safety reasons, so you don't cut yourself, basically. There's no really other reason I can think of other than just to stop you from nicking yourself, when it does happen, and it's not good. So, same again, if you're new to this or you're new to draw knives, do yourself a favour and round the two edges off, so you're basically not going to nick your hands or anything like that. You'll thank us later, trust us. So I had a couple of questions as well, so I was going to incorporate those into things or whatever, and that's kind of next on the list was filing edges, though, because there was a few people, there was a certain someone was asking, kind of he was getting marks, in his wood, and it was like a new, I think it was a new plane, the guy said. So I said it's probably the sharp edging of the plane, if it was a plane. But this goes across the board. This is like, it can be to stop you from damaging the wood, and it can also be to stop you from kind of cutting yourself, on a sharp edge. There was another guy who actually messages, and that was one of his complaints. He says he was comparing two planes. I think it was a Stanley plane and a record plane. I cannot remember which one, but he said one of them, he was disappointed in one of them because it had the open throat. It might have been the Stanley, or was it? I can't quite remember. And he said obviously it's good. The block plane had I'm sure it was a block plane, had the open throat, and it was really sharp. He says that's like kind of one of the things that kind of let it down. But this is across the board, even with some of the older tools. Some of the older tools aren't as bad as what the newer tools are, because the newer tools, they're not as machined as well as the older tools, in my opinion. I think that's pretty evident if you compare, like a new plane to an old plane. And I did say to the guy that I wouldn't personally, I wouldn't purchase a new plane from Record, which is, I think it's known as Irwin now, or I wouldn't purchase a new plane from Stanley, full stop. It is a bit of a shame, considering, some of the older tools, going back like 50 years ago or however long, some of them are really, really good. Obviously I've got me Record, is it a Record or a Stanley? No, it's a Stanley number 4 corrugated sole. I love that plane. It's well made, happy with the machining, happy with the way it performs. It's great, but obviously they just, it's sad, but the old saying stands, they don't make them how they used to, and it's really sad, but they don't. So going back to filing edges, as I said, I have had to do it with a few of the older tools. Even on my router plane, I did have to do it on that. This was a pre-owned router plane as well. I don't know if I got this off a flea market. I might have got it off a flea market, I think. But it obviously was used, which was a little bit surprising, because the front of the router plane, there was quite a few sharp edges. It didn't specifically look like anyone had took the time to actually, kind of round these over just very slightly with a file. And it does actually make all the difference. I have done this with planes as well. I've done this with, what else have I done this with? Nothing else is really springing to mind now, but, I have done it with quite a few tools, and I will continue to do it with tools, if I feel the need. So if you're kind of using, whatever tool you're using, some sort of a plane, and you feel that it's kind of marking the wood, a simple thing would be to take your fingertips around all the edges, obviously not the cutting edge, but around the body of the plane or whatever tool you're using, and just check in. If you find anything that's like a little bit sharp and you're not happy, feels a bit too hard or square, just get a regular file, take the regular file. You don't have to go you don't have to take stupid amount off it. I'm talking about a couple of minutes, just to round it over so it feels nice on the hand. If it feels nice on the hand or on the fingertips, it's going to make a difference. That is, if it's more in your wood, so that's kind of something that I think gets overlooked and obviously worth a mention. Okay, so last one for today. This is specifically what I do. This is specifically for me. This is one of the flaws in how I sharpen. So when I sharpen, and I've done a video on this, you can check the video out. What I'll do, or what's becoming very evident to us, is that I'm putting too much pressure on the side of the plane that's closest to myself, or the side of the blade that's closest to myself. This is evident on chisels. It's evident on plane blades as well. So what's happening when I'm sharpening, because I'm putting too much pressure, and the pressure will be with I'm having to think about this, me left. So with me left hand, I'm obviously putting too much pressure with my left hand. So on the left side of the blade, it's actually running down on a very slight bevel. So if you are sharpening and you're sharpening freehand, this is something to kind of check for or to look out for. So it's more beneficial for me to do this because I ain't got a grinder. As most of you know, I'm pretty much unplugged. I do still own a few power tools, but I just don't use them. Same as a bench. I've got a tall bench. I just don't use it. Will I get a grinder? Who knows? Will I get a hand cranked wheel? Again, who knows? I am kind of looking out for one of those, but I don't tend to see a lot of tools these days. The last couple of times I've been down to the flea market, there's been very few tools. There is a couple of other markets that I haven't been to for a long time, that are a bit more of a car drive. So who knows? Maybe in the next few months, I might head to one or two of those and maybe check out, see if I can get myself a hand cranked grinder. But as I said, it is more beneficial for me because obviously if I continue to sharpen, how to put it, sharpen, I can't say mindlessly because obviously my mind's on the job when I'm doing it, but I need to start being more, what's the word? I basically need to start putting more pressure on the right side of the of the plane, which I have been doing for some time now, but I just thought it was a good one to mention. If you kind of keep an eye on your blades, you're not going to get into a situation where you kind of pick it up one day and you go, or you're putting it back together one day, you're putting your chip breaker on and you go, oh, what's the matter there? I've done that, by the way. So, and it's just a lot of work. As I said, it's a lot of work, especially for me, because I don't have anything like that. Any mechanical means to do it quickly. It can be laborious, especially as I've stated in other videos and other podcasts. I do use hock blades in me number 4, me number 5. One of them's like an A1 steel, and one of them's the A2. One of them's like a carbon steel, and the other one's like cryogenically treated, so that's like the tough one. So that does take longer to sharpen. So as you can imagine, because it takes longer to sharpen, if you've got a lot to do, a lot to remove to correct the 90 degrees or the squareness off the blade, it can be a bit of a nightmare. So that is something for you to look out for, kind of ongoing maintenance or alteration, if you will. So I think that's pretty much it today. As I said, this list wasn't extensive. You could go on for quite some time with this, but my time is getting close. While I'm on, I want to say a huge thank you for all the new followers on Instagram. My Instagram's been going crazy at the moment. I'm still only a small channel, but for everyone that's just joined or followed us rather, a massive thank you for everyone that's been with us since the start and just joined in or whatever. Thanks for sticking around. Really appreciate it, guys. And until the next time, I shall speak to you all later.